From now on, I don't have to care about the lower limit of my potential anymore. Zhou Zhou thought. The lower limit of his subject potential had already reached the level of a grade 4 supreme god with the supreme god body. Furthermore, it was the bottom line of all subjects. It did not only refer to the blazing sun god race, human race, but also the other races under the blazing sun divine kingdom. Why should he care about the lower limit of the potential of the previous mid-tier deity level advanced grade? He did not know how long it would take to raise the lower limit of the potential of the subjects of the blazing sun divine kingdom to the level of a grade 4 supreme god if he did not have a supreme god body and only relied on newly advanced master gods and supreme gods to increase the lower limit of his potential. One Lord talent resolved it. I can also use this Lord talent in the future to continue improving the potential of subjects. When this Lord talent is raised to the supreme will realm, or even the will control realm, perhaps all the subjects under me will have the potential of the supreme will realm, or even the potential of the will control realm. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. If that was the case, the potential of this Lord talent could be described as infinite. It would not be inferior to a top Lord talent like Heavenly Fate Di Huang. As for the Lord talent effect too, it made the strength of the subjects of the blazing sun divine kingdom reach the lower limit of the legendary tier elementary grade. In the past, because of the heavenly summoning, the lowest strength of the subjects of the blazing sun divine kingdom was an epic tier advanced grade. The highest they could summon was a subject of a legendary tier advanced grade, regular summon. However, now that he had this talent, the weakest subjects under him in the future would be subjects with the strength of an elementary grade legendary tier, coupled with the lower limit of their grade 4 supreme god potential. The speed at which they advanced to God Spirit would be extremely fast. The difficulty would also be extremely low. In other words, from now on, an extremely terrifying number of God Spirits would be born in the blazing sun divine kingdom every day. Zhou Zhou was even extremely certain that it wouldn't be long before the number of god spirits under him reached the level of the number 1 faction in the myriad worlds. Moreover, one day, the number of god spirits under him would exceed the total number of god spirits in the entire Supreme Great Cosmos, even the Supreme Great Cosmos and the Crimson Great Cosmos combined. Lord Talents 3 and 4 were all used to increase the comprehension of subjects and increase their ability to comprehend skills and law skills. They were also extremely practical Lord Talents. The last Lord Talent 5 was a Lord Talent that could increase the probability of breaking through to the God Spirit realm. It increased the upper limit of the probability of breaking through and could even be useful for advancing to the Supreme God realm. Coupled with the lower limit of a grade 4 Supreme God's potential, the effect would reach a level where 1 + 1 was greater than 2. Zhou Zhou was very satisfied after reading it. Then, he closed the Lord Talent information interface and stood up to leave the Reincarnation Sacred Palace. He came to Mu Gu's residence. They saw a golden stream of light fly out of the Scarlet Brood Mother and land on the ground, revealing Wu Xian's figure after chatting with Mu Gu for a while. "Greetings, Your Majesty," Wu Xian said respectfully. Then, he took out 3 rings and handed them to Zhou Zhou. "These are my gains from the Scarlet Brood Mother. Please take a look, Your Majesty." Zhou Zhou took it and checked it. Wu Xian and him split up after confirming that there was no problem. Wu Xian went to change his profession to a new recruit, while he came directly to the Gate of Summoning. Then, he called over a Master God Tier Advanced Grade Eternal Battleship as usual, and he threw all 10 Guy unit recruitment books into the Gate of Summoning. Finally, he spent 100 Master God Tier Advanced Grade Divine Crystals to recruit them in one go and arrange them on this Eternal Battleship. Then, he spent another 100 Master God Tier Advanced Grade Divine Crystals to summon 66,666,600 pure-blooded dragons and placed them in another Eternal Mothership. Then, he carefully observed these dragons and discovered that he had also summoned 2 legendary dragons. One of the legendary dragons was the Death Dragon God, Corzo. The other legendary dragon was the Evil Light Demon Dragon, Ira. One of the 2 legendary dragons was good at the Law of Death, while the other walked the two laws of evil and light. Then he allowed the pure-blooded dragons like them to take up their posts in the dragon god army. Then Zhou Zhou spent another 100 Master God tier advanced grade divine crystals to summon the day's worth of subjects. This time, he summoned more than 27.7 billion subjects. He summoned more than 6.6 billion subjects than usual. The strongest among them were the 14 Master God tier advanced grade god spirits. Then, he got his subordinates to arrange the whereabouts of these new soldiers and new subjects before heading to the Jade capital, Immortal Mountain alone. After spending 1,000 low-tier deity-level elementary grade divine crystals, he summoned 100 capital units heavenly soldiers, heavenly generals, and heavenly venerates. At this moment, swoosh, 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 swoosh. A total of 12,434 light pillars of various laws soared into the sky from the direction of the Reincarnation Sacred Palace. Right on the heels of that, in the sky filled with stars, another 10 completely different starry sky phenomena appeared. Strange phenomena filled the sky. The gods of the myriad worlds were stunned when they saw this. A total of 20 newly advanced supreme gods were born. The birth of so many supreme gods in one go had only happened once in their history. That was when the illusionist clan invaded their great cosmos last time. The Chaos will specially used its power to forcefully promote thousands of master gods to become supreme gods in order to resist the invasion of the illusionist clan. This time, even though the number of these 20 newly advanced supreme gods was far inferior to the magnificent feat of the Chaos will last time, but the Chaos will was forcefully created by thousands of supreme gods. And this time, it was a supreme god born naturally. There had never been so many supreme gods born at once in the history of their universe. Their meanings were completely different. In terms of shock, these newly promoted 20 supreme gods were not inferior to those thousands of supreme gods at all. They looked at the source of the 20 supreme gods again. If nothing went wrong, it was the common people's regal's blazing sun divine kingdom again. They were not surprised at all. Only the blazing sun divine kingdom of the common people's regal could do this. In this aspect, even the Lord of 10,000 evils, Spring Autumn Dharma Lord, and God King Heaven Punishment could not do it. The Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army has set a new record again. TSK, 20 supreme gods were born at once. It's unprecedented and unprecedented. There's a high chance that the Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army can continue to break this record in the future. You're still calling him Supreme Lord's 4th Reserve Army. The common people's regal is currently the Supreme Lord's 3rd Reserve Army. He has officially surpassed the Lord of 10,000 evils. How impressive! Lord Common People's regal should be the first person in history to break through the sequencing barrier and be the first Reserve Army Lord to successfully advance. The Lord of 10,000 evils hasn't had any new achievements in a long time. All the god spirits have gone to the ultimate void battlefield to serve him. No. Lord Common People's regal only went for a period of time and snatched back the ultimate void battlefield. I knew from that time that Lord Common People's regal would surpass Lord of 10,000 evils sooner or later, but I really didn't expect it to be so fast. Even though the Lord of 10,000 evils didn't have much merit, he worked hard too. Everyone knows the situation in the ultimate void battleground. Is that because Lord of 10,000 evils didn't work hard? The enemy is really too powerful. It's not something Lord of 10,000 evils can deal with. As for why Lord Common People's regal can change the situation the moment he goes over, it can only be said that he is worthy of being the last Supreme Lord Reserve Army that the Supreme will personally chose. Stop arguing. As far as I know, even though the Lord Common People's regal and Lord of 10,000 evils have only known each other for a short time, they are good friends. If they see you arguing over such a matter, they will probably not know whether to laugh or cry. I heard that too. Unbelievable. The relationship between these two Supreme Lord Reserve armies is really unexpectedly good. At the same time, Zhou Zhou was already surrounded by these newly promoted Master Gods and Supreme Gods, and he gave them a set of divine artifacts each after chatting with them briefly. The god spirits were extremely excited and left. After they left, Zhou Fight calculated the strength of his main combat army. His original military strength had 45 Guy units, 459 capital units, 2 quadrillion, 711 trillion, 918 billion, 223 million, 878,167 soldiers, 195 billion, 635 million, 759,999 god spirits, 25 billion, 734 million, 117,552 true gods, 697,352 master gods, 352 supreme gods, and 16 quasi-supreme willpower realm. Including the 20 Guy unit recruits who were recruited and changed jobs today, there were 66,666,660,000 pure-blooded dragons, 100 capital units heavenly soldiers, 122,933 newly advanced master gods, and 20 newly advanced supreme gods. The troops under him had already reached 65 Guy units, 559 capital units, 271 trillion, 198 billion, 429 million, 878,167 soldiers, 196 billion, 302 million, 759,999 god spirits, 25 billion, 734 million, 183,552 true gods, 820,285 supremacy gods, 372 supreme gods, and 16 quasi-supreme willpower realm. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction after reading it. At the same time, Zhou Marshal had already brought Thanatos, Nazario, and 10,000 Master God tier advanced grade God spirits to the Chaos Sea and met the space-time chaotic divine demons. This time, they had brought a total of 812 chaotic divine demons. Zhou Marshal was naturally very satisfied with this. The space-time chaotic divine demons brought more and more chaotic divine demons. It did not disappoint him. Since that was the case, he might as well reward them this time. Following that, he did not immediately reward them. Instead, he gave them 3,248 Master God tier divine artifacts, as usual before killing the 812 chaotic divine demons with a single palm strike. Then, he looked at the space-time chaotic divine demons. Space-time, space, ancestor wind, ghost shadow. Zhou Wu said, "You've done well recently, but your realm is a little low." Upon hearing this, the space-time chaotic divine demons were stunned for a moment. Then, they suddenly thought of something, and their faces suddenly turned pale. They hurriedly knelt down and said in fear, "My lord, please don't abandon us. We have already felt the bottleneck of advancing to the Supreme God realm. As long as we wait for another 1 to 200 years, we will definitely advance to the Supreme God realm and serve your majesty well." Zhou Marshal could not help but smile when he heard that. 1 to 200 years? I'm not even that old. What would I be waiting for that period of time for? However, to be honest, 100 to 200 years was indeed an extremely short period of time for a master god. However, it was indeed too long for him. Have you forgotten how long this emperor has been rising? Zhou Marshal said indifferently. This emperor can't wait that long. Only then did the space-time chaotic divine demons remembered his majesty's age. They were extremely disappointed and sad. Could they have just lived a good life and were about to be abandoned by his majesty? During this period of time, even though they had a tough time, they had to run around every day to contact the various chaotic divine demons in the divine demon realm who were willing to trade. However, other than being a little tired, they enjoyed the rest of the work very much. The flattery of his peers, the countless divine crystals, the inexhaustible number of master god tier divine artifacts, the vast number of connections he had made. All sorts of benefits made their value, status, and strength skyrocket. In addition, they had faith in Zhou Zhou's Holy Spirit tier believers. Therefore, they enjoyed this job very much. However, this job seemed to be abandoning them because they were too weak. They were very reluctant, but they were also very helpless. This was because Master God tier's strength did not seem to be worthy of his majesty. They had seen the advancement phenomenon that had appeared in the myriad worlds cosmos over the past few days after all. Naturally, they did not make a mistake today. The birth of a total of 20 newly promoted supreme gods shocked them. His Majesty could even buy supreme gods at wholesale prices, so it seemed normal for him to look down on master god tiers like them. They immediately fell silent thinking of this. What are you thinking? Zhou Marshall shook his head and threw over 4 bottles of pills. These are pills for advancing to the supreme god level. They're called the Extreme Heart Pill. They can allow your will to break through to the will divine transformation realm. Your cultivation level has already reached the limit of a master god tier advanced grade. When your will breaks through to the will divine transformation realm, you will naturally break through to the supreme god level. There's no need to return to the divine demon realm today. Take the Extreme Heart Pill to the Reincarnation Sacred Palace in the divine capital and go into seclusion. You will be able to advance to a Grade 1 Supreme God tomorrow. However, a Grade 1 Supreme God is not enough. When you go back tomorrow, find 20 chaotic divine demons at Master God tier advanced grade as soon as possible. This Emperor will also bestow this Extreme Heart Pill to them, allowing them to advance to the level of a Grade 1 Supreme God. They will listen to you in the future. From now on, you can walk in the Fiend Celestial world with the strength of 25 Grade 1 Supreme Gods and collect more Chaos Divine treasures for this Emperor. After Zhou Fight said that, he looked at their reaction. The space-time chaotic divine demons thought that they had heard wrongly at first, but they could not react in time. They immediately revealed an ecstatic expression by the time they reacted. They were not only happy that they had the chance to become a supreme god. The real reason for their joy was that His Majesty did not abandon them. Thank you, Your Majesty. However, Your Majesty, this Extreme Heart Pill is too precious. The space-time chaotic divine demon, they immediately knelt down and said gratefully. Then, they looked hesitantly at the Extreme Heart Pill in Zhou Marshall's hand. This was a top-notch divine medicine that could allow a master god to become a supreme god. How many supreme gods were there in the entire supreme great cosmos? However, these 4 pills could create 4 newly promoted supreme gods. They naturally understood the preciousness of this kind of divine medicine. It's a reward for you. Just take it. Don't dawdle. Zhou Marshall frowned. This Extreme Heart Pill was only a supreme god-level pill. With his supreme unique lord talent, he actually had quite a number of Extreme Heart Pills and items similar to the Extreme Heart Pill's functions. Therefore, he naturally did not feel any heartache for the pills rewarded to them. Yes, Your Majesty. The space-time chaotic divine demon did not dare to say anything else and immediately said respectfully. When Zhou Marshall saw this, he nodded slightly. His efficiency in obtaining the Chaos Divine Treasure had greatly increased even with the location of Tianjun's corpse. Compared to Tianjun's corpse, the Chaos Divine Treasures produced in the Demon God Divine world and the Time Ruins were considered few. However, a mosquito's leg still had meat. Naturally, Zhou Marshall would not mind. Furthermore, with his help, when the space-time chaotic divine demons they returned, they would be able to give him more chaotic divine demons. When that happened, he would be able to obtain more chaotic divine treasures. Zhou Zhou had a feeling. The Supreme will seem to have the intention of letting he support the Supreme Great Cosmos, or even the Scarlet Great Cosmos to produce more Master God tier kingdoms, or even Supreme God kingdoms. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to have so many impossible requirements in his advancement requirements. Since the Supreme will wanted him to do it, he would do it himself. In any case, with the personality of the Supreme Will, he would not mistreat himself. Zhou Marshall did not stop after that. He obtained a total of 3,248 units of Chaos Divine Treasures after extracting the loots. Then, they brought the space-time chaotic divine demons to the time ruins of Chaos Death and obtained another 170 units of Chaos Divine Treasures. At this point, the number of Chaos Divine Treasures he had reached 26,461 units. Zhou Marshall looked at these Chaos Divine Treasures and felt a little regretful. The Chaos Divine treasures were far from enough, but the requirements to conquer 10 beginner-grade Master God tier kingdoms were far from enough. Still, it should be completed in 2 days. At that time, his main body could upgrade his territory, the Yellow River region, accompanied by a spatial fluctuation. A total of 10 supreme God-level cosmic battleships and more than 10,000 Master God-tier battleships slowly appeared from space. In the leading supreme God-level cosmic battleship, the Common People's Battleship, Zhou Fight sat in the main seat. On both sides of him stood the generals of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom: Bai Yun, Wu Xian, Feng Luo, Nazario, Qi Xintian, Terence, the Primordial Dragon. Almost all the most famous generals of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom were gathered here. In order to show how important the Yellow River Realm battlefield was, Zhou Fight even brought 30 Gai unit soldiers, 500 billion God spirits, 10 billion true God tiers, 500,000 supremacy gods, 200 supreme gods, and 10 quasi-supreme Will Realm experts. It could be said that half of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's main combat strength had been brought to the Yellow River region by him. In addition, a large number of resources compatible with war were also stored in the Supreme God-level battleships and Master God-tier battleships under him. They were already prepared to fight a resource war and a protracted war. All of this was for the war with the illusionary race. At this moment, a figure appeared in front of him. It was the reincarnation will. He looked at Zhou Fight and a smile appeared on his face. Then, he sensed something and his face instantly turned into shock. "Brother, you brought so many subordinates?" he asked in surprise. In fact, what he wanted to ask was where he got so many powerful subordinates, especially the 10 quasi-supreme Will Realm experts. However, if he asked directly, he seemed to look down on his younger brother. That was why he asked. Zhou Fight smiled and said, "The enemy is powerful and can't be underestimated. To be safe, we can only bring more soldiers over." The reincarnation will nodded slowly and reluctantly accepted this explanation. Zhou Fight asked, "Brother, how's the situation on your side?" The reincarnation will said, "After I returned yesterday, I immediately mobilized the army and started a full-scale war with the Illusionist clan. After the Death Whisperer died, the morale of the Illusionist clan plummeted as we expected. I took the opportunity to take back many territories in the Yellow River region. Right now, about 80% of the Yellow River region is still in the hands of the Illusionist clan, and only 20% belongs to us." Zhou Fight's heart sank. They had already taken back a portion of their territory, but they still only had 20% of it. So before they could take back this portion of territory, the Yellow River region had already been occupied by the other party, right? D***. I'm the lord of the Yellow River realm now. Those territories that haven't been taken back are all my territories. At the thought of this, the thought of snatching back the Yellow River region in his heart became stronger. "Big brother, how's the war going?" Zhou Fight asked. Even though he was anxious to take back the entire Yellow River realm, he didn't rashly rush out to fight. That wasn't in line with his personality. He had long developed a habit of making plans before taking action. An obvious smile appeared on the reincarnation will's face, hearing Zhou Fight's question. He patted Zhou Fight's shoulder and smiled. Even though the soldiers of the illusionary race are powerful and their methods are strange and unpredictable, after the death of the Death Whisperer, their morale decreased greatly, especially the soldiers of the Death Whisperer's headquarters. They fell into a huge panic, and their overall combat strength decreased by more than 30%. This was not the most important thing. The most important thing is still you. Zhou Fight was stunned. "Me? I just got here, didn't I?" Huh. When the reincarnation will saw the expression on Zhou Fight's face, he could not help but laugh and say, "Brother, have you forgotten the batch of divine artifacts you gave me?" "With the batch of divine artifacts you gave me, the god spirits under my command have already put on a complete set of divine artifacts. Their combat strength has increased by more than 4 to 5 times with the enhancement of the entire set of divine artifacts. It can be said that the strength of the army under me, the strength of the reincarnation will, and my strength has increased by 4 to 5 times because of the divine artifacts you gave me. This allowed us to defeat the illusionary army easily and take back the territory of the Yellow River realm in our battle with the illusionary race. If not for this, even if the Death Whisperer died, it would be very difficult for us to make the territory of the Yellow River realm in our hands reach 20% in a day. Brother, I really have to thank you. The reincarnation will looked at Zhou fight, his eyes filled with sincerity and satisfaction. If only I could wear a full set of holy artifacts one day. Towards the end, reincarnation will suddenly sighed. Then he glanced at Zhou fight. Zhou fight immediately understood what the other party meant. He smiled and said, "If I can really gather a set of willpower holy artifacts that are suitable for brother in the future, I will definitely give them to you immediately." Promise. The reincarnation Will's eyes lit up. He naturally didn't believe what others said. However, if it was he who said this, he would believe it too much. The subordinate of him, who was dressed slowly, was the best proof. Even though a full set of holy artifacts was very difficult, with this example, it was not impossible. Zhou Fight nodded. When he upgraded Heavenly Fate Di Huang to the Supreme Realm Lord talent, there was a high chance that he could upgrade the Supreme Divine Artifact that dropped from the enemy to a holy artifact. At that time, it would just be a set of holy artifacts. It would be easy. Hence, Zhou Fight agreed without any pressure. The reincarnation was very good to him. If he became rich, so what if he gave it a set of holy artifacts? When the reincarnation saw Zhou Fight's reaction, it felt very comfortable. However, he did not forget the serious matter. Are you planning to act with me next, or do you have other thoughts? The reincarnation asked. Brother, do you have the current map of the Yellow River region? It's best if you have the military power of the illusionary race. Zhou Fight said. Yes, I'll share it with you. The reincarnation nodded. Then, he directly handed the Yellow River region's military power distribution map to the other party through his personal terminal. At the same time, he projected a copy. My current army is attacking this position. The reincarnation pointed at a place where the illusionist clan was densely distributed. Zhou Fight looked at the map projected in front of him and thought for a moment. Finally, he pointed to another location in the southeast. Even though the strength of the illusionist clan in this position was not as strong as the attack of the reincarnation the military power of the illusionist clan was also very dense. Are you sure you want to attack the plains of death? The reincarnation raised his eyebrows and asked. He also knew that there were more than 100 quasi-supreme realm experts in this position. There was no need to mention anything else. It far exceeded the group of soldiers that Zhou Fight had brought. Zhou Zhou chose to agree without hesitation. When the reincarnation saw this, even though it wanted to say something, he did not say anything in the end. He believed that he would never do anything stupid. Let me know if anything happens. I can rush over immediately. The reincarnation said. Sorry to trouble you, brother. Zhou Fight did not refuse his help. The reincarnation left. The battlefield on his side was the main battleground against the illusionist clan. They could not afford to be careless. It would be good enough if he could take the time to visit his younger brother. Now that he was unwilling to fight the enemies of the illusionist clan with him, he had to hurry back and take charge of the overall situation. Zhou Fight did not waste any time and immediately led his army to the Plains of Death after the reincarnation left. The Plains of Death. This was a very important territory in the Yellow River region. It occupied about 1/20th of the territory of the Yellow River region. According to the size of the boundless universe, the territory of the Plains of Death was comparable to the territory of hundreds of boundless universes. Due to the vastness of the Death Plains and the rich power of death, a large number of souls had gathered here, forming ghost cities and even ghost kingdoms. Among them, the powerful ghost kingdom was not inferior to the divine kingdom lords in the modern world in terms of scale. Originally, this place had been safe and sound. At most, the undead forces would compete with each other for supremacy. However, everything changed after the illusionist clan arrived. The illusionist clan wiped out all the undead forces on the plane of death in a short period of time and established an illusionist kingdom, illusionist death. The rulers of the illusionist clan enslaved all the undead on the plains of death. Not only did they make them their slaves, but they also used them to refine divine artifacts and practice cultivation techniques. In a short period of time, the number of undead on the plains of death had decreased to about 70%. The death of a large number of undead naturally aroused the dissatisfaction and resistance of these undead. However, in the face of the strong suppression of the illusionist clan, they had no power to resist. They could only watch helplessly as they either became traitors to the undead and served the illusionist clan, or they could only watch helplessly as their fellow undead disappeared one by one. When Zhou Fight led the cosmic battleship here, he witnessed and understood everything. When Zhou Fight led the cosmic battleship here, he witnessed and understood everything. It was the illusionist clan that established the illusionist death kingdom. The tragic lives of the people of foreign races were reflected in his eyes. All of you deserve to die, the Zhou Fight said coldly. Then, as he read on, he suddenly raised his brows. That was because he suddenly realized that this illusionary kingdom of death was actually a beginner-grade master god-tier kingdom. He thought for a moment and understood. This was too normal. The illusionist clan had abundant resources and gathered the strength of the entire clan. Not to mention establishing a beginner-grade master god-tier kingdom. Even establishing 10 beginner-grade master god-tier kingdoms would be a piece of cake for them. A smile appeared on his face. It's really a silver lining. This time, there was another source of beginner-grade master god-tier kingdom. Even though the number of beginner-grade master god-tier kingdoms of the illusionary race was definitely the priority, it was definitely enough for him now. He no longer hesitated thinking of this. He immediately ordered all the soldiers to fly out of the cosmic battleship and attack the illusionist clan below. At the same time, he also activated the Grade 3 Supreme God Realm domain skill, Land of Earth, a minister of the king. Then, he set up 2 domain rules. The first rule: your own attack will not harm the undead race. They were his subjects after all. Zhou Fight did not want to hurt his own people. The second rule was to suppress the conceptual ability of the illusionist clan as much as possible. The conceptual power of the illusionist clan was strange and unpredictable. Even he might fall for it if he was not careful. Not to mention his subordinates. Therefore, in order to prevent the conceptual god's ability from harming the soldiers under him, Zhou Fight specially set this rule. His Land of Earth, a minister of the king, as a Grade 3 Supreme God Realm domain skill, could even suppress the will skill of a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert, let alone the concept god ability of the illusionist clan. As long as it was not the conceptual divine ability of a middle-level Supreme Will Realm expert or a higher-level expert of the illusionist clan, Zhou Fight was confident that he could suppress it to the greatest extent. In the blink of an eye, the army of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom had already charged towards the illusionary kingdom below after receiving the order. The cosmic warships under Zhou Fight also began to attack the illusionary kingdom below continuously. A large number of the illusionist clan died in the illusionist kingdom below almost in an instant. Only then did they realize that an enemy was attacking them. The enemy is attacking. Retaliate quickly. Who dares to attack our illusionary kingdom of death? How audacious. He actually ambushed us. It must be the reincarnation well. I've already heard that they have officially started a war with our main army and are currently fighting fiercely. I didn't expect them to dare to send troops to launch a sneak attack on our illusionary kingdom of death. A war between 2 fronts, humph. What boldness. All troops, listen up. Kill these reckless fellows. The illusionist clan reacted quickly and immediately organized their forces to counterattack the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. However, with Zhou Fight's Land of Earth, a minister of the king's domain, the concept god's power cast by them were reduced by more than 80%. The remaining power did not pose much of a threat to the soldiers of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom. The members of the illusionist clan were stunned when they saw this. They couldn't understand their own concept. Why was God's power so weak? This was almost no different from not having any effect. However, the soldiers who rose from the blazing sun did not care about their feelings. While they were in a daze, the soldiers of the blazing sun divine kingdom launched a fierce offensive without hesitation. In less than a moment, the territory of the illusionary race was completely occupied by the soldiers of the blazing sun divine kingdom. All the illusionist clan members were dead. None of them survived. On the other hand, the undead in it were unscathed. They were even surprised that they were unharmed. With the intensity of the battle just now, it was not an exaggeration to say that even a quasi-supreme will realm expert would die in the aftershock of the battle after all. Zhou Fight did not explain. He was naturally not satisfied with the results of the battle. Therefore, he did not stop and immediately led the soldiers to continue their offensive. 2 hours later, the illusionary death beginner grade master god tier kingdom was completely destroyed. Even though there were more than 100 quasi-supreme will realm experts in the illusionary death kingdom, they was unable to retaliate at all and was quickly defeated with Zhou Fight personally participating in the battle. Zhou Fight's expression was calm. With his current combat strength, he could even fight a low-level supreme will realm expert and even have a high chance of winning. A mere 100 quasi-supreme will realm experts were naturally easy to capture. However, what made him the happiest was the fact that he had conquered a beginner-grade master god tier kingdom. I'm one step closer to upgrading my territory. Zhou Fight thought to himself. After Zhou Fight conquered the Plains of Death, he opened the military distribution map of the Yellow River region that the reincarnation will had shared with him. He looked at the distribution of the forces of the illusionist clan marked with red dots with a burning light in his eyes. The illusionist clan had established many beginner-grade master god tier kingdoms in the Yellow River region. If he worked harder today, he might be able to upgrade his territory tonight. However, even though there are many beginner-grade master god tier countries here, we can't be rash. With my current strength, I can at most deal with a low-level supreme will realm expert. This is only possible when I use my full combat strength. If I want to be safe, it's best to only attack those forces of the illusionist clan that are protected by quasi-supreme will realm experts. Zhou Fight thought to himself. Even though he, an expert with the combat strength of a low-level supreme will realm, seemed to be breaking the rules when dealing with these weaklings. They were only at the grade 3 supreme god realm. In fact, he was the challenger. No one could say anything. Therefore, his behavior wasn't considered a violation of the rules. This was called having the ability. Just do it. I'll only challenge the beginner-grade master god tier kingdom that has the highest protection from a quasi-supreme will realm expert. At the thought of this, Zhou Fight immediately made up his mind. Then, he did not waste any time and immediately led the army to the next beginner-grade master god tier kingdom of the illusionary race. Only a large number of undead remained. Worshipping the direction, they left in fervently. They already knew that the one who saved they was the new leader of the Yellow River region, as well as the third successor of the Supreme Will. He was young, but he was powerful. He was benevolent and compassionate. He liked to save the common people. At the same time, his status was extremely high. In their hearts, the common people's regal was already the new ruler that they yearned for the most, welcomed, and revered after the will of Yellow River. On the other side, Zhou Fight and they had already arrived at the second territory they wanted to conquer with the supreme god-level cosmic battleship. The second beginner-grade master god-tier kingdom of the illusionary race was called the Dark Realm. This was originally a paradise for the undead. They were suppressed by the illusionist clan and became the subjects of the illusionist clan after the illusionist clan arrived. Exploitation, enslavement, beating, scolding, killing. All kinds of scenes were common every day. Seeing this, Zhou Fight did not hold back at all. He led his army and conquered it in just over an hour. The overall strength of the Dark region was even inferior to the Plains of Death. There were less than 50 quasi-supreme will realm experts. With such strength, even if Zhou Fight did not take action himself, Just the 10 quasi-supreme will realm experts under him and the various buffs of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom were enough to easily destroy them. And so, after Zhou Fight came to the Yellow River region, he obtained the second beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. Continue. Zhou Fight was very satisfied with the results of the battle. He chose to continue expanding the scope of the war without hesitation. Time passed quickly. When night fell, Zhou Fight had conquered 8 beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdoms. Zhou Fight was very satisfied with this. Coupled with 2 beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdoms, he would be able to upgrade his territory to Grade 1 Supreme God. This Yellow River realm is really a treasure land for me. Zhou Fight's eyes lit up as he thought. Hurry up. I'll try to meet the requirements to upgrade my territory today. Zhou Fight did not waste any time and immediately rushed to the next beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. However, an accident happened in this beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. East Heaven beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. This beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom was also established by a quasi-supreme, realm expert of the illusionary race. It carried nearly 200 quasi-supreme, realm experts. The ruler of his kingdom was called Dong Tian. He was a quasi-supreme, realm illusionist clan expert who had mastered the power of the conceptual god of gender transformation. As long as one looked into his eyes, any living being with the concept of gender would change from a man to a woman, or from a woman to a man. Moreover, the existence that was transformed into another gender would lose all the abilities of the previous gender. Which meant, when a male life form was turned into a female by the East Heaven, he would lose all his male abilities, including combat strength, thinking ability, and even personality. Even his memories would be distorted to varying degrees. This was undoubtedly an extremely powerful ability. Even in the illusionist clan, the power of this concept was shocking. Especially for the illusionist clan that had gender differences, it was enough for them to hide far away. However, Dong Tian, whom the illusionist clan didn't dare to face, looked terrified. This was because he had just received news that the third reserve arm of the Supreme Lord, the Common People's Regal, who also held the fragment of the legendary tier Sacred Seal, was carrying out an unscrupulous conquest in the Yellow River region. The other party had already conquered 2/5 of the Yellow River region. According to the information he had obtained, the other party's next target was very likely to be his beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. He was very afraid of this. This was because he knew that as a powerhouse of the illusionist clan who had mastered the conceptual god ability of the demon eye of transformation, even though he was very famous in the illusionist clan, in the eyes of the Common People's Regal, he was probably not much different from the other powerhouses of the illusionist clan who had been conquered by him. He had heard that the other party had killed a quasi-supreme, realm expert, like slaughtering a dog. His true combat strength was probably already comparable to a true supreme, realm expert, coupled with the legendary illusionary legendary tier, Sage Seal. How could he not panic? What should we do? Dong Tian grabbed his hair as he thought of a solution. He was originally a living being whose appearance was so beautiful that it was almost impossible to differentiate between a man and a woman. However, his actions at this moment made he look somewhat miserable. However, facing the Common People's Regal who was about to arrive with the fragment of the illusionary legendary tier Sacred Seal, he couldn't be more embarrassed. At this moment, a cold and arrogant male voice sounded in his ears. East Heaven suddenly looked up and saw a cold-looking man in a gorgeous royal robe with his hair scattered. He had a carefree and unruly temperament as he stood not far away, looking at him as if he was looking at an ant. Dong Tian should have been angry at the other party's gaze. However, when he realized who the person in front of him was, he immediately revealed an ecstatic expression. Lord Martial Emperor, why are you here? Shouldn't you be fighting the experts of the reincarnation while on the main battlefield? The fearless king knows that the Common People's Regal is about to attack your beginner-grade Master God-tier kingdom. In order to prevent the other party from achieving his goal, the fearless king specially got this divine being to support you ants. The Martial Emperor said arrogantly. Dong Tian heaved a sigh of relief and a smile appeared on his face. With Lord Martial Emperor around, the upcoming war should be settled. Dong Tian looked at the Martial Emperor in awe. This lord, who was respectfully addressed as a Martial Emperor, was known as the strongest martial arts expert among the supreme Will realm experts. His conceptual divine power was also known by everyone. His name was Martial Emperor. The specific effect was, the Martial Emperor would automatically replicate and master the other party's martial arts abilities when his enemy mastered martial arts abilities, and he would be able to reach a higher level. With this ability, the Martial Emperor began to rise when he was weak. After countless years, he had already grasped the abilities of countless martial arts experts. He had already integrated these martial arts abilities and formed his own martial arts school. He called it the Martial Emperor art style, and he had also successfully advanced to the Supreme Will realm with his martial arts. Ordinary middle-stage Supreme Will realm experts did not dare to look down on him, even though he was only a low-level Supreme Will realm expert. Even high-level Supreme Will realm experts admired his potential and felt that it was very likely that he would advance to mid-level Supreme Will realm in the future. If he encountered a high-level Supreme Will realm expert who was good at martial arts, and the Martial Emperor relied on his conceptual divine ability to replicate the other party's martial arts ability, it was not impossible for him to advance to the upper stage Supreme Will realm in the future. The Martial Emperor had the same thought. In the illusionary world, his martial arts ability had reached an invincible level. He had once been in seclusion for a long period of time. He wanted to rely on himself to comprehend higher-level martial arts abilities so that he could advance. However, he immediately came to a realization when he didn't receive the feedback he deserved after a long period of seclusion. Rely on myself? Whatever for? Wouldn't it be better to rely on my conceptual ability to freeload? However, he could no longer find a suitable duplicate in the illusionary world. What should he do? He quickly thought of a solution. He would head to the real universe, which was the ultimate void great cosmos, and seek the opportunity to break through from the supreme willpower experts in the alternate universe. Therefore, he followed the army of the illusionary race here. However, things didn't go as smoothly as he had imagined. Even though the supreme great cosmos also had supreme will realm experts who were good at martial arts, there were not many of them. In addition, the Supreme Will had used some unknown method to figure out the conceptual divine power of the Martial Emperor. It had even ordered that no experts who were good at martial arts were allowed to approach the Martial Emperor. This made the Martial Emperor, who wanted to replicate his martial arts ability, feel extremely uncomfortable. However, it was definitely impossible to make the Martial Emperor give up on his goal just because of this. Thus, the Martial Emperor stayed here until he received the order from the Fearless King today. Originally, he was too lazy to come here. However, the Fearless King's strength far exceeded his, and the conceptual god's abilities were extremely effective against him. Therefore, he had no choice but to come. He casually asked, "Is this common people's regal good at martial arts?" Well, Dong Tian hesitated for a moment before saying, "He should be good at it. This subordinate has never fought with him before, but I've heard that he is extremely powerful. I'm not too sure about the rest." The Martial Emperor nodded coldly. He actually wasn't too interested in him, even if common people's regal was really good at martial arts. He was just a grade 3 Supreme God realm. How high could his martial arts realm be even if he was good at martial arts? Even if he relied on some secret technique to obtain the strength of a low-level Supreme Will realm expert, it was not important to him. What he wanted was never an opponent, but a supplement that could raise his martial arts realm. As far as he knew, common people's regal did not meet the definition of supplements in his eyes. One look at the other party's expression, and he knew that the other party was looking down on this third reserve member of the Supreme Lord. He could not help but say, "Martial Emperor, even though that common people's regal is only a grade 3 Supreme God realm, he can also kill Lord Death Whisperer, who is a low-level Supreme Will realm expert, with his secret technique. Moreover, as far as I know, the other party once revealed his martial arts ability in the Yellow River realm. It should not be underestimated. Dong Tian did not dare to say anything else. This way, the martial emperor wouldn't think that he was boosting others' prestige. Oh, the martial emperor's interest was piqued. Was he really good at martial arts? Since he was the successor of the supreme will, the martial arts heritage he grasped should be extraordinary, right? Perhaps it was a martial arts inheritance at the supreme will realm. Thinking of this, he had a slight desire to fight the other party. I hope that his martial arts will not disappoint me, the martial emperor said calmly. Dong Tian agreed with a flattering expression. At this moment, a grade 1 supreme god-level illusionist clan suddenly appeared in front of them. Greetings, Lord Dong Tian. Greetings, Martial Emperor. When he saw the Martial Emperor, he was obviously shocked. Then, he said respectfully in surprise. The Martial Emperor was a famous martial arts expert and a star in the illusionary world. He was very famous in the illusionary world. The Martial Emperor nodded lightly. My lords, I just received news that the Common People's Regal has piloted a cosmic battleship to the territory of our beginner grade master god-tier kingdom. Currently, they have already begun to attack the illusionist clan subjects in our kingdom. Many subjects of the illusionist clan have already died under the large-scale attacks of the other party. Dong Tian frowned slightly and asked, don't the undead live with the illusionist clan? Does he not even want the creatures in their supreme great cosmos anymore? This was an order that he had specially given to prevent the supreme will from sending troops to attack his divine kingdom. He did not expect it not to work. The grade 1 supreme god said, the other party used a special method to make them attack and only hurt our people, not the undead. Dong Tian's frown deepened. This Common People's Regal had quite a few tricks up his sleeve. He saw the Martial Emperor raise his hand and sneered just as he was about to ask for more information. Take me to see this Common People's Regal. Humph. A Supreme Lord Reserve who just took office dares to be so arrogant. Then I'll let him become the first Supreme Lord Reserve to die in our hands. Martial Emperor, don't let your guard down. Seeing this, Dong Tian hurriedly said, the other party seems to have grasped the fragment of the legendary tier illusionary holy seal. That legendary holy artifact is not easy to deal with. What power can a grade 3 supreme god realm possibly unleash even if he really grasped the fragment of the illusionary legendary tier sage seal? Don't worry, I'll do my best. And I'm not a weakling or an idiot like the Death Whisperer. You don't have to remind me. With that, the Martial Emperor had already disappeared in front of them. East Heaven Beginner Grade Master God Tier Kingdom, Puppet Ghost City. The Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom Army joined forces with many cosmic battleships to launch a blanket attack on Puppet Ghost City below. Many subjects and experts of the illusionary race were wiped out before they could react under the blanket attack of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's army. The experts of the Illusionist clan and the Illusionist clan who were lucky enough to survive immediately prepared to counterattack. However, under the powerful strength of the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, their counterattack was almost weak and could not pose any threat to them. In less than a moment, almost all of them had been destroyed. Only the confused and excited undead and the unharmed buildings of Puppet Ghost City remained. In less than a moment, almost all of them had been destroyed. Only the confused and excited undead and the unharmed buildings of Puppet Ghost City remained. The reason why the building was not damaged was naturally because of Zhou fight. He had only added an attack effect that could ignore buildings to the land of Earth, a minister of the king, allowing the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's army to ignore buildings and attack enemies inside and outside buildings. This was naturally to protect the buildings. These were all his territories after all. He still had to spend money to repair them after destroying his main body. The enemy of Puppet Ghost City has almost been eliminated. Let's go to the next city. Zhou Fight said. Yes, Your Majesty, Bai Yun said respectfully. Then, he prepared to lead the soldiers away. However, at this moment, Zhou Fight suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked ahead. More than 100 meters away, A man in a royal robe with loose hair and an arrogant and cold aura was standing there looking at him coldly. They were clearly so close, but neither the others nor the supreme god-level cosmic battleship under his feet reacted at all. Supreme Will Realm Expert. This thought appeared in Zhou Fight's mind. Only Supreme Will Realm experts could make supreme god-level cosmic battleships unable to discover them. You are the third reserve army of the Supreme Lord, Common People's Regal? At this moment, the Martial Emperor asked. Who are you? Zhou Fight asked. I am the Martial Emperor. The Martial Emperor said coldly. It's your honor that a mere grade 3 Supreme God realm can die in my hands. Go to hell in peace. With that, he flew straight over. At this moment, Bai Yun and the rest had already noticed the Martial Emperor. Sensing the other party's unparalleled aura and pressure, they immediately realized that this was a powerhouse that far exceeded their imagination. And they already had the strength of a top supreme god. Who else could be stronger than them? It was naturally a supreme Will Realm expert. After Bai Yun came up with this terrifying conjecture, she immediately wanted to order the soldiers to counterattack and protect His Majesty. However, at this moment, a calm voice reached her mind. Don't worry, this emperor can deal with him. Bai Yun's eyes widened. His Majesty could actually deal with a supreme Will Realm expert? She could not believe it, but when she thought of His Majesty's invincible performance, she felt that it was impossible for His Majesty to lie. But that was a supreme Will Realm expert. A true existence standing at the peak of the myriad worlds. Even the strongest Supreme Will had an attitude of roping in Supreme Will Realm experts. Has His Majesty's current strength already reached this level? There was no time to think. This was because Zhou Fight had already begun using his methods. He said in a low voice, King. In the next second, his strength was directly raised to the level of an expert infinitely close to the low-level Supreme Will Realm. Then, he immediately released his Supreme Sacred Body with all his might to raise it to the highest level. A grade 3 Supreme God Realm Supreme Sacred Body. It was enough for him to face the attack of a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert head-on without suffering serious injuries. A calm expression appeared on Zhou Fight's face after using the Supreme Sacred Body. With the Supreme Sacred Body, even if he faced a high-level Supreme Will Realm expert, he naturally could not fight. He at least had a certain level of confidence that he could escape. Following that, he formed a seal with both hands and chanted a spell. In the next second, a super-large boundless universe was directly formed, enveloping him and the Martial Emperor, who was flying over. Is this the opening of a battlefield that belongs to you and me? Or the grave you've so carefully prepared? When the Martial Emperor saw this, he remained calm and unmoved. Swoosh! The Martial Emperor had already arrived in front of Zhou Fight and was about to punch him in the face. After this round, even ordinary low-level Supreme Will Realm experts would probably have their heads blown apart if they did not defend. Zhou Fight reacted quickly and immediately blocked the punch with his hands. Then, he grabbed the other party's arm and threw the Martial Emperor in another direction with all his might. Unexpectedly, the Martial Emperor failed to control his divine body and was sent flying by Zhou Fight's force. A look of surprise flashed in his eyes. This common people's regal was indeed not simple. His strength was almost the same as his. He smiled gently. Interesting. Borrowing the force of the throw, he suddenly turned around and instantly attacked Zhou Fight. In the blink of an eye, he threw thousands of punches at Zhou Fight. Every punch was an all-out attack. If it was a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert who was not good at close combat, his divine body would probably be shattered on the spot under the Martial Emperor's close combat attacks. However, Zhou Fight had an invincible Supreme Sacred Body and was not afraid of the other party's continuous attacks at all. Not only did he not dodge, he even engaged in close combat with the other party. Bang, 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 bang. Every punch hit the flesh. The entire super-large, boundless universe echoed with the loud sound of the battle between the two. A moment later, the two gods suddenly punched each other with all their might, their fists aimed at each other's fists. Boom! Invisible ripples spread in all directions from the place where the two fists collided. Space obliteration. Time shattered. Billions of laws collapsed. Fortunately, the super-large boundless universe created by Zhou Fight was extremely sturdy. The damaged parts were quickly repaired. Otherwise, once the universe was damaged and the aftershocks of the battle were leaked, the blazing sun divine kingdom army outside the super-large boundless universe would suffer. Then, the two of them used the force of the feedback to jump to the side. Zhou Fight looked at him calmly. The martial emperor also looked at Zhou Fight with interest. Perfect martial arts. Not bad, not bad. For you to be able to reach the level of perfect martial arts at this age, you are indeed qualified to be the third reserve army of the Supreme Lord. I approve of you. However, such martial arts are still far inferior to mine. Next, I'll let you see more profound martial arts. My self-created martial arts. Imperial martial style martial arts. I'll tell you in advance. My martial arts have the potential to transcend. The real battle has just begun. Perfect martial arts? Zhou Fight was deep in thought after hearing the other party's words. Was he referring to the martial artist of heaven? I think so. Only martial arts mastered by heavenly martial artists could be called perfect martial arts. As for the martial emperor style he mentioned, it should be a martial art at the Supreme Will realm. What was the martial Tao at the Supreme Will realm? In other words, a martial art that surpassed the rules of cultivation and broke through the perfect confinement. Zhou Fight looked excited when he saw the martial emperor charging at him. He was not afraid at all. Instead, he rushed forward and fought with the other party. Bang, 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 bang. The loud sound of the collision resounded throughout the entire Great Thousand Universe. However, Zhou Fight was now at a complete disadvantage. It looked like he was no match for the martial emperor. The martial emperor was very arrogant at first. As he had expected, once he used his martial arts, this common people's regal had no way of retaliating. The martial emperor style. In other words, Di Huang. Naturally, it lived up to its reputation. However, he quickly discovered something that displeased him. Under his continuous attacks, even though common people's regal had always been at a disadvantage, his physical defense was terrifyingly strong. He had been attacking until now, but he had actually not injured him at all. What kind of F***king body is this? The martial emperor was about to vomit blood. His physical strength was almost comparable to a holy artifact, right? However, he soon discovered something that alarmed him. Under his continuous attacks, the common people's regal was actually unable to retaliate at first, but gradually began to be able to retaliate. The martial emperor sensitively sensed that common people's regal had extremely high potential for growth in his martial arts skills. If this continued, he might not even be able to fight him to a draw, much less suppress him. How could the martial emperor accept such a thing? He sent Zhou Fight flying with a punch. Then, he stood on the spot and looked at the other party with a solemn expression. Why aren't you fighting? Zhou Fight said in surprise. He looked unscathed. A smile gradually appeared on the martial emperor's face. The more you fight, the stronger you become, he said with a faint smile. So, you're a natural martial emperor like me. At this point, he shook his head again. What a pity, what a pity. If you don't focus on martial arts and dabble in too many laws, you won't be able to become a true martial emperor like me in the end. Today, I'll show you what a real martial emperor looks like. Huh. He clasped his hands together with his palms facing each other. His face was ferocious, and his muscles were bulging as though he was accumulating something. Seeing this, Zhou Fight threw a punch. However, after the punch landed on the martial emperor, he was actually unharmed. He didn't even move. The martial emperor sneered but didn't say anything. Zhou Fight narrowed his eyes as he watched this scene. With the martial arts knowledge of a heavenly martial artist, he could see the mystery of the other party's move. This move was a form of stance. This stance could release powerful moves by accumulating strength. Moreover, during the accumulation of power, the other party's physical defense would also reach an extremely high level. Ordinary external attacks would not be able to break through the other party's physical defense. He had relied on his physical strength to attack with all his might, but he was still unable to make the other party move after all. This proved this. He originally wanted to continue using some means to interrupt the other party's stance. He didn't stop him, but after some thought. There were several reasons. First, the other party didn't use his full strength, but he didn't do that either. Until now, he had only relied on the physical strength of the supreme sacred body to fight the other party. He had not even used the myriad method star palm. Not to mention the Yellow River Emperor sword and the Yellow River stone slab, two willpower holy artifacts that could kill high-level supreme will realm experts. Secondly, the innate martial emperor that the other party mentioned was the ability to become stronger the more he fought. He indeed had it. Firstly, it was because he was a heavenly martial artist and had an extremely high efficiency in learning all kinds of martial arts, and combat experience. He could grow rapidly in battle and even learn the other party's martial arts for his own use. The martial emperor thought that he was a heavenly martial artist, which was why he could keep getting stronger in battle. He could even threaten himself in the end. Now, he had no choice but to display even stronger strength. However, the martial emperor was wrong. He had the innate talent of a heavenly martial artist, so being able to quickly become stronger in battle was one thing. However, this reason alone would not allow him to grow so quickly in battle. The biggest reason was the myriad method star palm that he had mastered. The myriad method star palm itself had the ability to absorb the other party's laws in battle and perfect its growth. Moreover, the growth rate of this growth-type ability far exceeded that of a heavenly martial artist. The reason why he did not want to interrupt the other party was because he wanted to use the myriad method star palm to replicate the other party's ability for his own use after the other party displayed an even stronger martial arts realm. His heart was burning. The martial emperor's ability was not inferior to the inheritance of a mid-level supreme realm expert. Even though he had an incomplete, eternal, immortal realm inheritance like the supreme sacred body, the more supreme realm inheritances he needed, the better. He wouldn't mind. So, let the martial emperor use his full strength. The stronger the other party was, the stronger he would be. The martial emperor was slightly taken aback before he smiled when he saw that Zhou fight had no reaction to his accumulation of power. It was the smile of someone who had met a worthy opponent. As expected of a heavenly martial artist who had mastered perfect martial arts. When facing an opponent, he always yearned for the other party to display their strongest strength. Good. Then I'll defeat you with my full strength. I'll make you accept your death wholeheartedly. Roar. He roared as he suddenly grew 2 heads and 2 pairs of arms. This is my martial arts form. 3 heads, 6 arms. Let me have a good fight with you. He looked at Zhou fight with fighting spirit in his eyes. Zhou fight's expression turned solemn. 3 heads, 6 arms. This ability looked very simple, but to a martial arts expert who grasped the supreme realm, this simple 3 heads and 6 arms could increase the other party's strength by more than 10 times. However, he wasn't afraid. Instead, he became even more excited. If you want to fight, then fight. He rushed up and fought with the other party. The result was obvious. He was inferior to the martial emperor in terms of pure martial arts. Now that the other party had used 3 heads and 6 arms, his strength had increased by more than 10 times. He was at a disadvantage. Zhou fight was at an absolute disadvantage. However, due to the supreme sacred body, even though Zhou fight was constantly beaten up, he was not injured at all. Moreover, because his myriad method star palm was constantly absorbing his martial arts realm and increasing Zhou fight's own martial arts realm, even though Zhou fight was the one being abused, his eyes were actually becoming brighter and brighter. The martial emperor soon realized this. Swoosh. A pair of brass knuckles suddenly appeared on his 2 hands. A fist with brass knuckles hit Zhou Fight's chest. Zhou Fight felt a sharp pain in his chest. Frowning, he teleported out of the martial emperor's attack range and appeared in a safe spot. He looked down at his chest, which had been smashed. However, in an instant, The powerful recovery ability of the supreme sacred body made this wound disappear without a trace, as if it had never been injured. If you continue to be beaten like this, I guarantee that you will die before you can recover, the martial emperor said indifferently with confidence. Zhou Fight didn't say anything. He just looked at his brass knuckles. It was a pair of dark, golden, ancient brass knuckles with faint blood stains on them, as if they had experienced many ancient massacres and witnessed the deaths of countless experts. It was a low-level, holy artifact. Since you've started using holy artifacts, then I'll use some tricks. Zhou Fight's hands moved slightly. His hands and even his entire body emitted a faint white light. Myriad Methods Star Palm. Even the Myriad Methods Star Palm, which was only at the Grade 3 Supreme God Realm, had the power of a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert under the activation of the Supreme Sacred Body and the strength of an expert infinitely close to the low-level Supreme Will Realm. Previously, he had only used the Myriad Method Star Palm to learn how to absorb the other party's martial arts realm. He would be using it for battle now. Zhou Fight turned into a stream of light and appeared in front of the martial emperor, punching him. Boom. Space shattered. Time was obliterated. Laws collapsed. The martial emperor's expression changed slightly. This power. He immediately punched back. The two fists collided, creating a huge destructive aftershock. Zhou Fight was forced back hundreds of light years by the force of the collision. It was the same for the martial emperor. After the two stopped retreating, they immediately charged at each other again. Bang, 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 bang. The two sides started fighting again, starting the second round of intense battles. While the martial emperor's martial arts realm was very high, and he could crush Zhou Fight in terms of martial arts realm, after Zhou Fight used the Myriad Method Star Palm, he no longer used pure martial arts to deal with the martial emperor. Thousands of laws were at his fingertips. Endless laws followed with every move. At this moment, he was like a heavenly Dao Di Huang who ruled over all techniques. Even though the martial emperor was a true supreme Will Realm expert, he couldn't do anything against Zhou Fight's sacred body that was comparable to a low-level Will Holy artifact and endless nomological methods. The two sides continued to fight and fell into a protracted battle. This was a standard battle between law and martial. Interesting. The martial emperor licked his lips, his expression ferocious and excited. It had been a long time since he had encountered such an interesting opponent. He took a light breath as a glint flashed across his eyes. Suddenly, an invisible blood-colored armor and 4 other Will Holy artifacts appeared out of thin air and attached themselves to his divine body and 4 other arms. The fully armed martial emperor's aura surged again, far exceeding the level of a low-level supreme Will Realm expert. When Zhou Fight saw this, his expression turned solemn for the first time. Mid-level supreme Will Realm. After this martial emperor put on his Will Holy artifact, he shockingly raised his strength to another level, reaching the level of a mid-level supreme Will Realm expert. Yes. Looking at the martial emperor's equipment, Zhou Fight could tell that they were all Will Holy artifacts. Even though they were all low-level Will Holy artifacts, it was enough to increase the strength of this expert by a level after they were worn by an expert. I'm afraid that he has once killed a mid-level supreme Will Realm expert with this Will Holy artifact. Looking at the murderous aura on the martial emperor's Will Holy artifact, Zhou Fight thought grimly. If he didn't have the Yellow River Emperor's sword and the fragment of the illusionary legendary tier sacred seal that contained unfathomable power, he would probably have run as far as he could when he saw the martial emperor in this state. However, he, who had the Yellow River Emperor's sword and the fragment of the illusionary legendary tier sacred seal, still had the courage to fight the other party. Common people's regal. The martial emperor pointed his spear at Zhou Fight and said coldly, "You should be proud of yourself for being able to make this divine being go all out even though you're about to die. A grade 3 supreme god realm can make me do this. I am willing to call you the strongest among the supreme gods." Zhou Fight's expression was calm. What is this? He stretched out his right hand and saw a faint yellow ancient stone slab appear on his right hand, floating quietly. It is the Yellow River stone slab. When the martial emperor saw the yellow river stone slab, his pupils constricted slightly, and he was deeply surprised and shocked. That was a high-level will holy artifact. This Supreme Lord Reserve Army, who was only at the grade 3 Supreme God realm, actually had a superior will holy artifact. He suddenly felt jealous. That was a high-level will holy artifact. He might have a set of low-level will holy artifacts that were suitable for him. However, in terms of value, his entire set of low-level will holy artifacts was probably inferior to the superior will holy artifact in Zhou Fight's hands. Low-level. High-level. The difference of one word represented a huge difference that could be said to be like the difference between the heavens and the earth. A mere grade 3 Supreme God realm could actually possess such a precious willpower holy artifact. D***M*. That be *TCH. The Supreme Will actually favors this little guy so much? Good, good, good. Since that is the case, I'll personally make him perish in my hands. Not only would he lose the face of the Supreme Will, his treasures, inheritance, and that mysterious will holy artifact would all be mine. The fighting spirit in his eyes intensified at the thought of this. When Zhou Fight saw the other party's shocked and jealous gaze, he thought of something. When the will of the Yellow River perished, it seemed that it did not carry the two superior will holy artifacts, the Yellow River Emperor's sword and the Yellow River stone slab with it. Instead, it left them in a nourishing place in the Yellow River domain and placed them there to nourish them. This way, when they were used in battle in the future, they could unleash even stronger power. However, the Yellow River will did not expect that the illusionist clan would launch a sneak attack on his hometown in the Yellow River region and send several Supreme Will Realm experts to kill him immediately. The sudden encirclement caused Yellow River's will to die in its territory before it could prepare. Otherwise, if the will of the Yellow River was prepared and carried the two will holy artifacts, the Yellow River stone slab and the Yellow River Emperor's sword, the encirclement of the illusionary race would definitely not succeed, and he would definitely not die. Teacher Yellow River. I will kill all the Supreme Will Realm experts in the Yellow River realm to avenge you. Zhou Fight thought to himself. The Supreme Will Realm expert, the Death Whisperer, had already died. The second was the Martial Emperor in front of him. The power of Yellow River. Zhou Fight suddenly said softly. The Yellow River stone slab floating in his right hand suddenly emitted a rich yellow light. This faint yellow light was like the faint yellow clouds of the Yellow River that had lasted for countless years. It made one feel loneliness, death, darkness, and utter despair. The light from the Yellow River slate did not affect anyone else, but when it landed on Zhou Fight's body, it was like a buff, causing Zhou Fight's combat strength to increase by 5 times. Zhou Fight could not help but take a deep breath as a faint smile appeared on his lips, feeling his own strength. The current he could beat the him from before. Is this the power of the Yellow River? He muttered to himself. Then, his eyes suddenly shot out a shocking light as he looked straight at the Martial Emperor. The Martial Emperor narrowed his eyes. He felt that Zhou Fight was different. Haha. So what? The outcome is not going to change. Zhou Fight turned into a faint yellow stream of light and rushed forward, punching the Martial Emperor. The Martial Emperor's 6 arms moved at the same time, turning into countless fist shadows that attacked Zhou Fight. Bang! The Martial Emperor was sent flying by Zhou Fight's punch, and his face was severely injured. He recovered instantly. Zhou Fight was unharmed even though he was also sent flying. The Martial Emperor touched his face and sneered. This battle is getting more and more interesting. Swoosh. He charged at Zhou Fight again and fought him. Bang, 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 bang. Clang. Boom. The Martial Emperor's 6 arms held 6 will holy artifacts. The frequency at which he attacked Zhou Fight was extremely shocking. Every move and style released an incomparably terrifying destructive power that was enough to destroy hundreds of boundless universes. Even though Zhou Fight did not transform into 6 arms, he was able to contend against him with his invincible body and a pair of fists. Even though the martial emperor's 6 will holy artifacts had put Zhou Fight at a disadvantage, it looked like every moment of the battle was very dangerous. However, Zhou Fight was at most injured and did not die. Willpower skill, 6 sacred demons. Seeing this, the martial emperor suddenly used his will technique. A terrifying heavenly demon Dharma Laksana appeared behind him, and the pressure and offensive pressure on him increased exponentially again. Zhou Fight was instantly covered in injuries. These injuries ranged from light to heavy, making Zhou Fight look extremely miserable. Even though they could instantly repair the supreme sacred body, a large number of new injuries would cover his sacred body in the next second. Seeing this, Zhou Fight chose to crazily exchange injuries for injuries, allowing the martial emperor to relax the frequency of his attacks a little. Then, he seized the opportunity to kick the martial emperor away. When the martial emperor counterattacked, a sword suddenly appeared in his hand. Xian Yuan Divine Sword. As a growth-type race divine artifact, the Xian Yuan Divine Sword had also advanced to the low-level, while holy artifact level, when Zhou Fight's strength had already reached the low-level supreme will realm. Ordinary race divine artifacts definitely did not have such high growth potential. However, the Xian Yuan Divine Sword could. The reason for this was not only because the quality of the Xian Yuan Divine Sword was extremely high, but also because his master, Zhou Zhou, was a person of great luck. Race divine artifacts were born based on the luck of the race. As the patriarch of the human race, Zhou Fight was the person with the highest luck of the race. Under the influence of Zhou Zhou's luck, the upper limit of the Xian Yuan Divine Sword became extremely high. Now, the upper limit of the Xian Yuan Divine Sword's divine artifact had even barely reached the level of will transcendence, which meant, even if Zhou Fight raised his strength to the level of willpower transcendence, the Xian Yuan Divine Sword could still raise his grade to the level of willpower transcendence. Speaking of which, after Zhou Fight took out the Xian Yuan Divine Sword, he immediately rushed towards the martial emperor and fought with him. Even though the martial emperor had 6 will holy artifacts in his possession, he could only barely suppress and injure Zhou Fight, who was also in possession of a will holy artifact. He could not really kill Zhou Fight. Moreover, as the duration of the battle increased, the martial emperor could clearly sense that Zhou Fight's martial arts realm was constantly improving. He was already constantly approaching the level of the supreme will realm. The martial emperor had to admit one thing. Zhou Fight's martial arts talent seemed to be stronger than his. He thought quickly and forced Zhou Fight to retreat. Then, he stood on the spot and looked at he coldly. He then pointed at him. Martial Emperor. Buzz. Zhou Fight frowned slightly. He had a vague feeling that some of the things he had seemed to have been duplicated by the other party. This is your nomological skill, the myriad methods star palm. With a thought, the martial emperor's entire body emitted a faint white light. He felt the power surging out of his body, and his eyes were filled with shock. Then, he thought of something and suddenly laughed in ecstasy. Okay. What a great myriad methods star palm. Even though this law skill is young, it has the will to transcend. He suddenly looked at Zhou Fight and grinned. Thank you for the myriad methods star palm. With your myriad method star palm, I have an additional 10% chance of advancing to a willpower expert in the future. Zhou Fight nodded calmly and suddenly asked, Is that all? The martial emperor was stunned. What do you mean? What I mean is, so much for your conceptual godly powers. Zhou Fight said coldly. Normally speaking, if the other party's conceptual god power was to replicate the other party's martial arts ability, he should be able to replicate his supreme sacred body. However, the other party clearly did not duplicate it. The reason was obvious. The martial emperor was just a low-level expert. As for Zhou Fight's supreme sacred body, it was an eternal immortal realm inheritance. The difference between the two was too great. It was too normal that the conceptual divine power of the martial emperor could not be replicated. At this moment, the martial emperor attacked again. Zhou Fight was also forced to fight with the other party. With the myriad methods star palm in hand, the martial emperor's strength had clearly increased greatly. Moreover, This was the grade 3 Supreme God Realm Myriad Method Star Palm. He did not dare to imagine that if it was the low-level Supreme will Realm Myriad Method Star Palm, Zhou Fight would probably have already started to think of an escape route. However, it was precisely because it was not a high-level Myriad Method Star Palm that even though Zhou Fight seemed to be in danger under the Martial Emperor's attack, there had never been any major problems.